So the aviation sector in India is presently in a state of mess. You can blame one company or another, but one really wonders how did we reach this point?
The problem really is in duopoly. So what has happened over a period of time in the aviation sector, that there are only now two major players left in the market, which is Air India and Indigo. And if anything happens to either one of them, the entire sector is in a mess, and we have seen that mayhem happening in the entire country, because Indigo is the largest airline in this country, and if something horribly wrong happens with Indigo, then the entire aviation sector goes into a mess. If there were more players in the market and if the market share had been evenly divided, this kind of problem would never have arisen, because people would have choices. People would have choices of switching over to another airline. That is exactly what is going to happen, or what can happen in the telecommunication sector, where also we are in a duopoly situation, and it is very important that the third important player also has a sizable stake in the sector, so that the people of this country can never be taken for a ride. And I feel that it is very important for the regulators and the government to ensure that in such important sectors concerning the health of our economy and concerning the well-being of the sector, that there should be always three or four important players in the sector, so that whenever something wrong happens with any one of them, people have enough choice to immediately switch over to the other one and ensure that they don't have any sectoral imbalances and sectoral harassments. This availability of choice itself will ensure that there is better planning by every player in the sector, and he is never in a position to put the entire people of this country into this kind of a mayhem situation, where hundreds and hundreds of flights are getting cancelled and people are stranded all over. And just imagine the trauma that people get if they're wanting to meet their loved ones, or they're going for medical emergencies, or they're going for an appointment or an interview, and all that is suddenly upset because of one airline having some issues in its functioning, and there is no alternative available to the people to switch to. So I think we really need to introspect and to see that at least in our major sectors, like in the power sector, we have now so many players in the power sector, and there is no way any particular entity can control that sector. Similarly, in aviation and telecommunication, it should be the job of the government and the regulator to ensure that there are. I'm also, while we are talking on these two sectors, I feel that since these are both regulated sectors, and if there is a possibility of surplus being generated in these sectors, then clearly the regulator can also ensure that there is sufficient reinvestment into the sector, so that from the surpluses, which will ensure that the people never suffer at any point of time. And that can very easily be done, and the industry would be more than willing to reinvest, because the reinvestment also ultimately results in better facilities to the people of this country. So this is something where we need to really think about and introspect, that instead of taking money like in the telecom sector, as considering the sector to be a milking cow and taking the money in the government coffers, if you were to only ask for the industry to reinvest into more infrastructure and to make the service better for the people, I'm sure these glitches will also not happen, and this problem will never arise. So I think this is something which we really need to think on and ensure that this kind of a crisis situation never comes up in this country again.
So one question that a lot of my friends also ask me, that in a situation like this, the consumers are left without any kind of legal remedy. It is almost as if they cannot hold anyone responsible for this crisis, or cannot have any kind of legal remedy to this particular problem. Do they have a legal solution?
No, the consumers have a legal solution, but you are doing one particular flight and you are harassed by this one particular flight. Now, just imagine for the problem that you face in one flight to be able to go to a consumer court and ask for damages, and that becomes a harassment by itself. So it's not so easy for. I think the real solution is that when this kind of a harassment happens, then there should be the regulator stepping in, and the regulator ensuring that every person, there should be a transparent method by which every person who has been harassed in some form or the other is adequately compensated, rather than every individual going to a consumer forum or asking for redress individually. And if that starts happening, it will also be a huge check on these industries to ensure that this kind of a thing never happens in future, because the outflow that will happen to every passenger harassed at the instance of the regulator will itself be a disincentive for the industry to ensure that this never recurs in future, and they'll do much better planning in the days to come.